Hey guys, thanks for coming back. Good to see you again. Today I want to talk about the relationship between self-esteem and pain. Maybe that seems kind of weird to you. Stick with me for a minute. We're going to kind of break this down and go step by step. So, self-esteem. What is that? What does it mean to have self-esteem? What does it mean to not have self-esteem? Where does it come from? How do you get more of it? Um, for many, many years, I felt like I didn't have enough. I felt less than. I felt like what I was able to do and accomplish and look like was much less than what other people were doing and accomplishing and looking like. And so my self-esteem suffered as a result of my perceptions. And I think this is kind of the key point number one. Self-esteem is largely a matter of what we perceive, what we value. So how do I value myself? How do you value yourself? What are the factors that play into whether or not you have self-esteem or not? And I think there are several. This thing about perception, a lot of our self-esteem, I think, in an unhealthy way, is based on what we see when we compare ourselves to other people. And so a lot of that depends on what you spend your time looking at. If your basis for comparison is the people who are around you in class, or coworkers at your office, or family members that you interact with on a regular basis, then maybe you can look at them and feel like, yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm not any worse than anybody else. And maybe you have a healthy self-esteem. If your basis though for comparison is like movie stars or professional athletes or something like that, or people who are insanely talented at music or some other skill, rock climbing, whatever you may be into. If you're comparing yourself against the people who have risen to the top and become famous and probably rich from doing what they do, then it might be harder to look at yourself and say, wow, uh, you know, I'm doing all right. I'm on my way to the same thing that they've achieved. Um, so your perception matters. Your mode of comparison matters. And so that was where I got in trouble a lot, as a teenager and in my 20s. Not that I was comparing myself to like movie stars or famous people, but I was still comparing myself to other kids in my class or other members of my high school youth group. Um, and found myself lacking in a lot of ways. The reality is I don't actually think I was lacking. Hindsight is 2020, but I didn't know that at the time. So what's the difference? Like, why can I look back 20 years later and say, oh, that was a foolish way for me to think of myself? It's because of perception, and that's a really powerful tool and something that we need to learn to use appropriately. So, one way that we develop self-esteem is by comparing ourselves to the people who are around us. I'm better than that one. I'm better than that one. I'm not quite as good as that one. I'm definitely better than that one. And we look at things. They may not all be surfacey. How a person looks, what kind of car they drive, that sort of thing. It may be the character of their behavior and their actions that you're comparing them yourself to. But comparing yourself to another person, and basing your level of self-esteem on how you stack up with the other people in the room, or the other people that you're spending time with, or the people that you want to be like, that isn't actually building self-esteem. There's nothing there's nothing happening there. It's in your head. You are telling yourself a story about what this other person is, or this other group of people is, and ranking yourself according to the things that are important to you, and then making a judgment in your brain. Um, so the value of the judgment that you arrive at could be totally misplaced, as it was for me. What I have come to learn in the last few years is that I build self-esteem to the extent that I make choices that I can feel proud of. This has nothing to do with anybody else. Self-esteem, the word is right in it, self. This is about me. So how do I build my self-esteem? I have to make the kind of choices for myself that allow me to have esteem, to feel valuable, to feel like I'm contributing, to feel like I'm not violating my own standards, my own values, my own integrity. It is about choice. Self-esteem is about choice. I firmly believe this. So, I wasn't a terrible person. I've never murdered anybody. But a lot of the trouble that I had in my 20s and through quite a bit of my 30s, actually, frankly, was because I felt like my self-esteem was solely based in how I ranked compared to the people that were in proximity to me. It never occurred to me that I needed to build my own esteem for myself, self-esteem, that I needed to build that by making choices. So this is something that my partner and I work really hard on now, teaching our 4-year-old. We don't tell him, "Oh, mommy and daddy are really proud of you. Look what you just did." We deliberately say, "Look what you just did. You can be really proud of yourself," because that's what self-esteem is. Self-esteem shouldn't have anything to do with some sort of external force or affirmation. It should come from inside you. How does that happen? How do you get this internal sense of I'm okay. I can handle this. I'm a good person, or whatever it is that you're looking for from your embodiment of self-esteem. It should come from inside you. How does that happen? By your choices. It shouldn't be dependent on somebody telling you who you are, how you rank, or anything like that. You shouldn't need another person to have self-esteem. Otherwise, it would be called external esteem, external affirmation. External affirmation surely feels good, and it's great to have that. But if that is the sole source of how you feel about yourself, what other people say about you, think about you, and how they treat you, then that has nothing to do with yourself. And if those things go away, you're going to have big problems. You will need continual external affirmation in order to have a sense of your own value. And if that affirmation from external sources isn't present, what motivation do you have to make good choices for yourself? So, okay, self-esteem. I started out by saying we're going to talk about the relationship between self-esteem and pain. So self-esteem, it is about myself. It comes from inside. It grows to the extent that I can make choices that help me to feel good about myself. So it is based on feelings. It is based on a judgment, but I'm holding myself to my own standard. It doesn't have to do with anything that I see anybody else doing. I have a standard for myself. Am I meeting that standard with the choices that I'm making today? So, relationship between self-esteem and pain. Why is pain important in self-esteem? Well, sometimes it's hard to make a good choice. Sometimes it takes a long time to get to where you're trying to go. An example of this for myself, I came to realize at one point in my life, I am an alcoholic. I did not want to hear that. I sure as hell did not want to believe that, because there were certain stigmas with that attached to being an alcoholic that I thought, no way, those don't apply to me. I'm not that. I'm not going to be that. However, I had a lot of consequences in my life from my alcoholic behaviors. There was a lot of pain. I was still making, I was making choices based on my belief system. I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. Alcoholism is way more about belief systems, what I believe about myself, and what kinds of behaviors I engage in as a result, than it is about the frequency or the quantity of the alcohol that I consume. Alcoholism is about beliefs. It's about what's up here and what's in my heart, way more than it is about drinking or putting a substance into my body. So people start telling me that I'm an alcoholic, that I've got a problem. I don't want to hear that. I'm experiencing all this pain, but that doesn't have anything to do with me. I'm making these choices and things keep going badly, but that doesn't have anything to do with me. I'm convinced that I am right. Okay. Meanwhile, inside, I feel terrible about myself. I am comparing myself to other people. I am comparing my progress toward the goals and the things that I want in my life to where I am now, back in those days, and I find myself lacking. And so I end up in this cycle, right, where my beliefs about myself, because I don't have enough self-esteem, because I haven't realized that in order to get self-esteem, I have to change myself, change the choices that I'm making so that I can change the outcomes that I'm incurring. I have to do those things so that I can build that self-esteem. So it's just this vicious cycle. I experience some kind of painful consequence. Shit, that hurts really bad. I've lost something that I wanted, or I have messed up a relationship, or I have put my job in jeopardy. Some kind of painful occurrence has happened. I think about, why that is. I'm not totally fully conscious of my role in creating that painful consequence, but at some point I do have a little niggling feeling that maybe if I had done something different, I wouldn't be experiencing this, but I quickly push that aside. No, I'm going to stay in victim mode. I don't deserve this pain, and I didn't do anything to get to this place. So then I act in a way that promulgates that narrative. This isn't my fault and I don't need to change. And so I make another choice, and end up with additional pain, additional consequences that I did not want. So pain has the potential to teach me, maybe you could make some different choices. If you don't want these painful consequences, then don't do the thing that leads to those consequences. But I close myself off to that for years and years and years, and just keep thinking, this has nothing to do with me. I'm the victim of my circumstances, because I don't want pain, because it hurts, right? Pain is not fun. At a point though, I got to where I started realizing the connection between the pain and what I believe about myself, my self-esteem. I realize I don't value myself enough to make a choice that is going to get me to the place where I want to be, with a good consequence, a happy consequence, something that I've worked toward. At some point, that becomes a little bit more clear to me. And so I start doing things differently. I have this whole wealth of, experiences that I can look back on and say, okay, when I did this, I got a really painful consequence. I don't want that consequence anymore. So what I have to do is back up to the choice that led to that consequence and choose differently. So pain becomes a motivator for avoidance of the thing that I don't want. Pain also becomes a teacher, but that requires me to have a self-awareness of where I have been and how it feels, and that I don't like that, to move that self-awareness into a place where it pushes me to choose differently. That's hard. It takes a long, long time. And it's hard to develop and maintain that self-awareness. Why? Because it hurts. Because looking at myself honestly doesn't always feel good because I've screwed it up a lot. I don't want to look at that stuff. Good God, the number of times that I got in my own way, that I was absolutely the 100% perpetrator of the negative consequences that I didn't want. Ouch. It doesn't feel good. And when I choose that pain, when I choose to look honestly at my role in what happened, then I can use that pain to get to a different place, to bypass those negative consequences that came from the stupid choice, the selfish choice, the fearful choice. Then I can get to a different place with a consequence that is really neat, like owning a home, or having a really healthy family life, or paying off a debt, something that I can feel proud of, something that inside myself makes me feel good about who I am or what I have done. And that's the connection that I see between self-esteem and pain. Pain sucks. Nobody wants it. It is a process to become comfortable with pain and use it as a force to motivate us forward to a different place where that pain becomes less frequent and less severe. So I want to challenge you today. Set aside 2 or 3 minutes. Think about your life. How happy are you with your life right now? I don't even want to say happy. I take that back. I don't care how happy you are with your life because happy that's too nebulous. How content are you today with the circumstances that you are living in? Scale of 1 to 10. I would say right now I'm probably a 9.5. I love my life. And that's something that I've worked for, that I have used pain as a tool, as a motivating force, as an educator to get past the horrible choices that I was making and to a place where I can say, yep, 9.5 out of 10. I am so content today with the circumstances of my life. Moving back to you. Sorry that I digressed. Look at your life, scale of 1 to 10, the circumstances of where you are today. Do you have a job? Do you like that job? Does it bring you fulfillment? Do you feel esteem working that job? Your relationships, your significant relationships, your family, your partner, people in your life, people that you work with, people that you go to school with. How content are you with those relationships? How much joy do you derive from those things? Your financial situation. Your proximity to your goals. Scale of 1 to 10. How content do you feel today with the circumstances of your life? Where's the pain? What are you afraid of? What is going on that you're worried about? Where do you have hurt? What are you trying to maybe escape from? Do you hate your job? Is your relationship with your partner miserable? Can you not get along with your parents? Are you mean to your brother? Does your boss think you're a worthless piece of shit? Do your coworkers think you're really nasty and aggressive? What are the circumstances of your life? Scale of 1 to 10. Okay, where is the pain? Where are you hurting? What is one thing that you can do today to look at a pain point and say, if I made a different choice, would that pain diminish? Take one thing, your relationships, your finances, your job. Pick something and then tell me about it. You can email me, Renee, at resourcefulpeacock.com, RENEE at resourcefulpeacock.com. Tell me your story. Tell me where the pain is. Tell me what's the thing that you're going to try to choose differently. Tell me if you think I'm absolutely nuts. No, Renee, you don't understand. My circumstance is different. Everything is pain. There's no way that I can get out of it. Tell me. I want to know that. try. See if there's one choice today that you can make differently to lessen your pain and to get to a place where you can say, I am really proud of making this choice. Use the pain to grow your self-esteem. I wish you all of the best. This is a journey, it's a process, it does not happen overnight, but share that journey and that process with me or with someone. I'm here and I would love to hear where you're at.